The world is full of things we can't explain. I never thought I'd be someone to experience them firsthand. My name is Jay, and I was born and raised in Thailand. Here, spirits and deities aren't just folklore, they're woven into everyday life. Ghosts aren't treated like fantasy or fiction. They're part of our culture, part of our beliefs. For us, it's not about whether you believe in them or not, it's just understood. They exist. Growing up, hearing ghost stories was as common as brushing your teeth in the morning. Every neighbor had its tale. Every family knew someone who'd seen something. It's not outrageous, it's just life here. I've had a few strange encounters myself over the years. Nothing extreme, a shadow that shouldn't be there, a flicker of movement out of the corner of my eye, creepy sure, but nothing that ever stayed with me. And honestly, most spirits are harmless. They tend to stick to certain places, shrines, old houses, roadside curbs, sometimes people. They have their space, and as long as you don't disturb them, they usually leave you alone. I'm not a monk, I'm not a medium. I'm just a regular guy who grew up around this stuff. And for the longest time, I thought I had it all figured out. But a few years ago, something happened. Something that didn't follow the rules. Something that changed everything. After I graduated college, I moved to Bangkok to start a new job. It was my first time living on my own, away from my parents, away from the quiet familiarity of home. I was excited, nervous too, but mostly excited. It felt like the start of a new chapter for me. I started hunting for a place to rent and eventually came across a really nice apartment listing online. 2 bedrooms, modern layout, clean space, great location, and the rent was pretty affordable if I split it with a roommate. Still, I figured I got lucky. I called the number on the listing and a man picked up. His voice was calm, professional. He told me there was only one time slot left to view the apartment, 8 p.m. that same night. A little late for a showing, I thought, but I was eager to move in and the price was right, so I said yes. When I arrived at the building, the security guard in the lobby gave me a quick nod and waved me through. No questions asked. The agent had mentioned earlier that the front desk had been notified about people coming by for the viewing. No need to sign in, just head straight up. So I did. I stepped into the elevator and hit the button for the 24th floor. The ride up was smooth, quiet, but as the elevator climbed higher, I felt a strange heaviness settle around me. I couldn't explain it. Maybe it was just nerves, or maybe it was something else. The door slid open with a soft ding and I stepped into the hallway. The lights above flickered just for a moment, then steadied. I didn't think much of it. I walked down the hall toward the unit for rent, not knowing that the moment I stepped inside would start a pretty dark chapter in my life. When I entered the apartment, I immediately noticed I wasn't alone. There was a girl already inside, quietly walking around the space like she was there for the same reason as me, viewing the apartment. She moved slowly, running her fingers lightly along the walls, then walked over to the large window, gazing out at the city skyline. The fading light outside cast a soft glow across the room, and for a moment, everything felt strangely still. She had long black hair that fell neatly down her back and big, expressive eyes. She didn't say a word, didn't even glance in my direction. She just kept calmly inspecting the space, completely focused, like I wasn't even there. I figured the agent must have double-booked the showing. No big deal, it happens, but something about her stuck with me. She was striking, not in a flashy way, more like quietly captivating. And though I couldn't explain it at the time, something about her presence lingered in the room, like she was meant to be there, and somehow I was. The apartment was just as beautiful as the photos. Modern layout, great lighting, stunning view. The agent showed me around, pointing out the features, the built-in storage, the lighting, the view. He was friendly, professional, and for some reason, he didn't acknowledge the girl once, not even a single glance in her direction. I figured he'd finished the full tour with her before I arrived, and she was just wrapping up, doing one last walkthrough before leaving. Made sense, I thought. Still, I couldn't shake how much I liked the place. The layout was perfect. The energy felt clean and open. It felt right. Without hesitation, I told the agent I wanted to sign the lease. I mentioned I'd be bringing a roommate and asked if that would be an issue. He nodded and said that would be fine. I'd just need to update him with the roommate's contact details once everything was sorted. I agreed immediately. I glanced around the apartment again and realized the girl had already left. No footsteps, no closing doors, no sound. She was just gone. I assumed she must have slipped out quietly while I was distracted. Which meant the apartment was all mine. I was ecstatic. It felt like everything was finally falling into place. Not long after, I found a roommate online. Let's call him Mark. Mark was great, we clicked instantly. We shared a lot of common interests, and it turned out we even worked near each other. Like me, he'd just moved to Bangkok from a more rural part of Thailand to start his first job. Also, the best part, he had a car. That meant freedom on the weekends, late-night food runs, weekend trips, no more relying on taxis or the BTS. Life felt like it was finally coming together. For a while, at least. Then some strange things started happening. At first, it was small. The remote would go missing from the table. My keys weren't where I left them. I figured maybe Mark was using some of these things and just careless about returning them. I decided I'd talk to him if it kept happening. But then it stopped. For weeks, nothing strange occurred. The apartment felt normal, almost peaceful. Then the noises began. It started subtly, just a light tapping on the walls late at night, always on the wall between my room and Mark's. Sometimes it was steady, other times it was more like a soft scratching, like fingernails on wood. It never lasted long, just a few minutes at a time, and it didn't happen every night. Sporadic, easy to ignore at first. I figured Mark was messing around. He thought the same about me. Every time we got up to investigate, the sounds stopped, and once they were gone, I didn't think too much of it. Until a few weeks later. That's when things took a darker turn. One night in the dead of night, there was a huge bang. Loud, violent, like something had slammed into the wall. It must have been around 2 or 3:00 in the morning. I was dead asleep when the noise jolted me awake. Then a second huge bang. It sounded like someone was slamming something into Mark's bedroom door. Was it coming from inside his room or outside? Was he slamming the door from the inside? Heart racing, I jumped out of bed and ran out to the living room to see what had happened. Mark came out at the same time. His face was twisted in anger. "The hell, man, why are you pounding on my door in the middle of the night?" I stared at him confused. "What? I thought you were in trouble. I came out because of the noise. It was coming from your door." He didn't believe me. He thought I was messing with him, but I obviously was. I was pissed, he was pissed. Neither of us was thinking straight. We were both exhausted, and we had to be up early for work the next day. Eventually, we just gave up on arguing and went back to our rooms. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, my thoughts racing. I didn't know what to make of any of it. The next day after work, Mark and I decided to cool off. It was a Friday evening, so we went out for drinks. By then, the tension had almost faded. We laughed, shrugged it off as a weird night, tried to make sense of it. Since Mark was driving, he stayed sober. I had a couple of beers. It felt normal again for a moment. Mark had a soda in his hand while I picked out some grilled skewers from one of the stalls. We were weaving through the night market, those buzzing Bangkok alleys filled with food carts, neon lights, and the smell of sizzling oil. It felt good to be away from the apartment. The noise, the people, the open air, it gave us a sense of normalcy we hadn't felt in weeks. I joked, "Do you think the apartment's haunted?" Mark didn't laugh, he barely reacted at all. He just stood there scanning the crowd. His eyes kept darting left, right, behind us, like he was searching for someone or avoiding someone. He was fidgety, twitchy, like something had crawled under his skin and wouldn't leave him alone. "You expecting someone to be here?" I asked, watching him glance over his shoulder for the third time. He froze for a second, then gave a weak smile. "Nah, thought I saw someone I knew." But his voice didn't match his face. We wrapped up the night around 1 a.m. The market was winding down, the crowd thinning. We made our way back to his car and headed home. I was tired, not drunk, just drowsy from a couple of beers in the late hour. Mark, of course, hadn't touched a drop. He was always careful about driving. There's this long stretch of road we usually take back. It's quiet, kind of isolated, and runs beneath a bridge with a sharp curve. One of those turns where, if you're going too fast, you can't see what's coming around the bend until it's too late. I was in the passenger seat, eyes half shut, my head leaning back against the window. I remember the soft hum of the engine, the faint radio static, the cool air of the AC brushing my face. Then, out of nowhere, a deafening impact. The car jerked violently, tires screaming against asphalt. I was slammed against my seat as the whole vehicle swerved out of control. And just like that, I was wide awake. I opened my eyes and froze. The windshield, it was covered in blood. Thick, dark streaks smeared across the glass, like something or someone had slammed into it full force. My body went cold, my breath caught in my throat. I couldn't speak, I couldn't move. I just stared, mouth open, heart hammering, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. I slowly turned to look at Mark. He was still clutching the steering wheel with both hands, white-knuckled, frozen in place. His face was pale, jaw clenched, eyes wide with terror. He looked like he had just seen death itself. Did you see her?" he whispered. His voice was shaking. I blinked, still stunned. What? "Did you see her?" he repeated louder now. "The woman, there was a woman, she jumped over the highway railing, right as I was making that turn. She jumped like she was trying to cross the street right in front of the car." For a moment we both just sat there, frozen in our seats. My pulse was racing, my hands were shaking. But somehow we gathered ourselves enough to get out of the car. We stepped onto the road, ready to see the aftermath of what we thought had just happened. A body, a tragedy. But there was nothing. No woman, no body, no blood, not even a single crack on the car itself. I couldn't process it. We looked at each other in stunned silence, then we turned to check the windshield again. It was totally clean, crystal clear. But just minutes ago, it was painted in blood. We both saw it, we both felt the car physically hit something. He swerved, I jolted forward in my seat. It was real, it had to be real. But now no dents, no broken glass, no evidence that anything or anyone had ever been here. All we found were the long, dark tire marks burned into the road where Mark had slammed on the brakes. Other than that, nothing. The highway was quiet, still, as if we had imagined the whole thing. But we hadn't. We knew we hadn't. Something was wrong. Very wrong. We drove home in complete silence that night. Neither of us said a word the entire way back. Whatever that was on the highway, it had drained us, mentally, emotionally. I wasn't tired anymore, I wasn't buzzed, I was completely sober. When we got back to the apartment, we didn't talk. We just went straight to our rooms and closed the doors. No goodnight, no unpacking, no rehashing what happened. We both just shut down. The next morning, I made a decision. I needed to get away. Away from this apartment, away from Mark, away from Bangkok, away from whatever was happening. So I packed a small bag and took a bus back to my hometown, way out in the countryside. Quiet, open skis, fields instead of buildings. It felt like the right move. I needed some space to clear my head. But more than anything, I needed spiritual protection. Before I even stopped by my parents' house, I headed straight to the temple near the edge of town. It was the same one I visited when I was a kid, familiar, peaceful, safe. I didn't know exactly what I was asking for, just that I needed to feel cleansed, balanced, in case something had followed me back. When I arrived, the temple grounds were quiet. A few monks were sweeping the walkways, tending to the incense stands, just going about their daily routines. I took off my shoes, stepped inside, and knelt down before the altar. I closed my eyes, pressed my hands together, and began to pray. As I knelt there in silence, I could feel someone watching me, not in a threatening way, more like concern. I glanced up briefly and noticed one of the head monks looking in my direction. He wasn't staring, just watching, calm, thoughtful. I bowed my head again and continued to pray. When I finished, I stood up, slipped my shoes back on, and turned to leave. As I reached the temple's gate, I heard a gentle voice behind me. "Young man," the monk said softly, "if you don't mind me offering a word of advice." I turned around. He was smiling faintly, one hand resting on the broom. "Wherever you came from," he said, "don't go back there right away." I froze. I hadn't told him anything, not about the apartment, not about the drive, not even why I came to the temple. But he looked at me like he already knew. I didn't know what to say, I just stood there, eyes wide, stunned. He walked up a little closer, placed a warm hand on my shoulder and said gently, "You did nothing wrong, you'll be okay. But if you can, do not go back there for tonight." Then he gave me a reassuring nod and walked off, returning to his duties as if it was just any other day. But for me, those words stayed burned in my memory. Because deep down, I knew something was wrong. I don't know what the monk saw in me that day or what he sensed, but I was shaken to my core. And at that point, I was willing to listen to anyone who could offer some guidance. Whatever happened that night on the road, it wasn't something I could explain away. So I took the monk's advice to heart. I stayed at my parents' place for the weekend. No city noise, no tapping on the walls, no blood, just quiet mornings and familiar surroundings. I felt like I could finally breathe. I didn't talk about what happened, not to my parents, not to anyone. I just needed to rest, to feel normal again. And for the first time in a long time, I actually slept through the night. Then Sunday morning came. I was packing my bag, getting ready to head back to Bangkok, dreading it, but figuring I had no choice. That's when my phone rang. One call that changed everything. It was the landlord. His voice was shaky, hesitant, like he didn't know how to say what he needed to say. Then he told me, and I swear my stomach dropped. "Mark jumped," he said, "out of your apartment window last night. We lived on the 24th floor. For a moment I couldn't even breathe. My head started spinning. This couldn't be real. No way. Mark wasn't the type, he wasn't depressed, he wasn't troubled. He was steady, level-headed, full of plans for the future. We were just at the night market, just laughing, just driving home. Everything had been pretty normal until the tapping on the walls, until the bang on the door, until that woman on the road. Now he was gone. I couldn't make sense of it, none of it. How does he just jump? Something wasn't right, there had to be more to the story, to everything that went on the past few weeks. I attended Mark's funeral a few days later. It was quiet, somber. His family had come in from his hometown, along with a few of his close friends from the village where he grew up. After the ceremony, we all sat down for a meal, sharing stories, laughing through the tears, trying to remember the best parts of him. Even though I hadn't known him for long, we'd really bonded during our time living together. We passed around our phones, scrolling through old photos of Mark, birthdays, camping trips, old group selfies. It felt good to remember him that way, warm, alive. One of his friends pulled up a set of photos from a trip they all took together years ago. He was flipping through them, sharing stories behind each photo, and we were all smiling. Until one photo made my heart stop. It was a photo of Mark with a girl next to him. Long black hair, pale skin, big expressive eyes, a soft smile. Something about her. No, everything about her felt too familiar. "Wait," I said, "can you go back to that photo?" He swiped back. I leaned in. My skin turned cold. I took the phone in my hands for a closer look. "This girl," I said quietly, "I've seen her before." Everyone looked at each other, then at me. She was there with me when I toured the apartment. I looked around the table. Was she also looking to move to Bangkok? The table went still. Then one of Mark's friends spoke up, his voice low, cautious. "No, that's impossible," he said. "You must be mistaken." "That's Lisa," another friend said. "They used to date. Mark broke it off before he moved to Bangkok. Said he wanted a fresh start, new experiences." A third friend chimed in, voice heavy. She didn't take it too well. She was really heartbroken. One night she was walking home late, distracted, maybe crying, and she was struck by a car. Head on, died instantly. My throat tightened. "This happened months ago," they said, "way before Mark moved to the apartment." I just sat there silent, phone still in my hand. There was no mistaking her. This was the same girl I saw standing by the window that first night when I was touring the apartment. Same long black hair, same pale skin, even the same clothes. Was Mark already haunted when we moved in? Did he know something was following him? Or did she lure him, make him choose that apartment when I put the ad up looking for a roommate? Is that why he kept looking over his shoulder at the night market when he said he thought he saw someone he knew? Was it her? I don't have the answers. Maybe I never will. But one thing I know for sure. I am not spending another minute in that apartment. I packed my things up, called my parents, and moved back home the very next day.